I knew it was coming after watching her documentary, Borderless. Lauren Southern announced she is quitting political commentary and leaving public life. But I will say more on that at the end. I watched Borderless, and no, I was not expecting a grand masterpiece on the migrant crisis, and she shouldn't be expected to make it, but I didn't expect it to be such a downer. There are some major things that Borderless didn't say that need to be said. But first, let's run through the best part of the film. Without a doubt, and I thank her team for this, is when they caught the nasty Ariel Ricker, the executive director of Advocates Abroad, a major NGO, admitting that they teach migrants how to lie and trick Europeans so they will be let into their countries. That was great stuff.
This is acting. All of this is acting. It's all acting as though this is theater. For them to get through, they must act their part in the theater. And that is the refugee and trauma. So we coach people how to have these characteristics. There's a formula we came up with. Significant events, date, and location. These are all the questions the same way. In December 2017 in Izmir, Turkey, I was threatened for being a Christian because my boss and his friends dropped me when I was leaving my church. This is the Bible they tried to tear up. This is the crucifix I was wearing that they tried to tear. And it made me feel unsafe as a Christian in Turkey. But boom. So consistency is the most important thing, even if you find yourself in a position where you have to lie.
Okay, so they didn't touch this, but so many others pointed it out. Ariel Ricker is an American-Israeli woman who went to Europe as a foreigner to then help other foreigners illegally bust their way into Europe. A foreigner helping other foreigners displace natives. And to this, people respond, "What does it matter if she's says people who then point out the race or ethnicity or religion of all other peoples. It matters because they make up a large number of NGOs and other orgs who are the biggest advocates for mass immigration into Europe. But they don't do this for Israel. Ariel, advocating for mass immigration into Europe, said she'd give her life to protect the state of Israel, an ethno-nation for the Jewish people. But for Europe, she'll break laws to push them to become nations for everyone. But you see, questioning their motives is dangerous investigative journalism. When we pointed out IsraAid, another NGO doing something similar, it was deleted from YouTube and we received a naughty strike. It is not allowed. If you want to be a famous investigative reporter, that's not going to do it. Yes, I'm against any NGOs working to smuggle people into Europe, but why do so many have this one thing in common? I question this, and that is why I am so vehemently attacked and lied about. Even Lauren hasn't spoken with me, although I reached out. It's the kiss of journalism career death, or life for others. It depends on what's important to you. Now on to the major weak spots of her big conclusion. She only focuses on the symptom of the migrant crisis and appeals to emotion, and does not go deep into who and why. Instead, it was, have compassion for migrants too. They're a lot like us, I think she means Europeans, with hopes and dreams, just born into unfortunate situations, that they sacrificed a lot to get here and were sold a lie. She interviews a handful of migrants and comes to the conclusion that although many aren't true refugees, that they left successful careers and family, or paid a lot to come to paradise, and were screwed over by smugglers, because they were sold a lie, that many have nowhere to live, no work, no money, and it's sad when they're freezing in the winter, but nobody seems to care. Her big mic drop ending is that a borderless Europe is one where nobody wins.
The story of a borderless Europe is one where nobody wins.
Well, the big mic drop should have been, Europe is borderless, the rest of the world is not. Why? But plenty of migrants come to Europe and do win. They win big. Big welfare checks, special housing, and privileges. She knows this. Many of the people coming into Europe are not just like us. Clearly, there are major differences. It's why they come to Europe in the first place. It's why mass immigration is a problem. And not everyone tells the truth about their situation, especially if they received a pamphlet from Ariel's NGO. So on one hand, Lauren knows migrants are taught to lie to get in, but then she seems to believe everything they say to her. If Lauren was going to interview a few migrants struggling to get into Europe who came of their own will, why not interview Europeans who have suffered from mass immigration? People who have become second-class citizens to migrants in their own countries.
You're enough for days. We are in danger every day, every minute. They're coming inside. Police. They want to kill each other. You have to do something. Someone has to protect us. They are in our house. We are the victims. We are not them. We have to live life before. We have to live our life. They took it for us. We're nothing more. They are. We have to take them from here.
People were never asked. Natives who can't get jobs, housing, welfare, or people who have suffered from violence, lost loved ones, and even been raped. What about them? We always hear about the poor migrants, but nothing about the poor Europeans. There wasn't any interviews with Europeans who have had their nations transformed in places like Sweden, France, Germany, Greece, Spain, England. Just a Turkish farmer.
Before the crisis, the villagers would go to their fields alone to tend their crops. But not anymore. Women especially. They can't go out anywhere alone. Now, they have to be escorted, even on their own farms. Then the crime started, and it got worse and worse. The traffickers started killing people they had arguments with. No one in the village could go to their own fields to pick olives. These people are dangerous. We are all frightened here now. I'm 55 years old, and now I have to carry a gun just to tend my field and animals. There are 20 more villages just like ours along this stretch of the coast.
So women in his village can't go out alone, can't be in the fields, and have to be escorted since it's become so dangerous. And this is in an area where these people are just passing by, not their final destination. Then what do you think it's like for German, Swedish, and other Europeans that have to live with these people? And after a few Irish people in the pub complained about a hotel used for migrants, the big conclusion was money. It became all about the money. Bad men making money, as though mass immigration into Europe is just about making a profit.
And a lot of very wealthy, evil men.
Well, for migrants, it is all about the money.
Money! Money! Money!
You think it was all just about money for Ariel Ricker? Yes, of course, people are getting rich off transforming Europe into a non-European landmass, but this is about much, much more than just money. This is a safe angle, one that doesn't go deep, one most of us already know. But if the intention was to win lefties over with this angle, it didn't work. They're not watching this, and they still don't care. Meanwhile, government and globalists have all the money in the world. They could easily stop the massive flow of people from entering into Europe, but they don't, because it's not part of their agenda. What smugglers make nowhere near compares to the money Europeans lose paying for all these uninvited opportunists, many of whom aren't even fleeing war. And by the way, why don't they go to neighboring countries? If they're all just like us but born into unfortunate situations, what does it matter? Last I checked, Israel and Saudi Arabia weren't taking their fair share. Why not? And then she concludes that it's all so much more gray than she could have ever imagined.
All I have discovered is this is all so much more gray than I ever could have imagined.
In the end, she expressed a centrist position in the gray zone, only focusing on the symptom and letting a lot of people off the hook in the process. It was a safe conclusion, casting doubt. Not what we need at this time. But it makes sense as she's trying to get back to a normie life. It was a melodramatic, centrist view, saying it's just so complicated. We think we all know, but we don't. There are two sides. I've seen the camps. I have no solution or conclusion either. Then it's all a gray zone. No one wins. Well, someone is definitely winning. She also questions if migrants are really coming to pillage Europe, and she says this is a narrative that the media presents. Really? You mean alternative media? Well, for groups like ISIS, absolutely, but for many it may not be on the forefront of their mind, but that is what ends up happening if they continue to come in massive numbers, replacing us in cities like London, for instance. Draining welfare, starting violence, pushing their religion, etc., etc. That is the destruction of Europe. If you replace the people of Tibet with Chinese, it is the destruction of Tibet. Just like there is no Europe without Europeans. Now, this vital fact was not spoken in this documentary. Being on the ground and seeing the migrant pathway is seeing the symptom. It's not the same as being in the closed halls of powerful globalist institutions who push their agenda. It is not getting to the root of the problem. Besides, if a 24-year-old woman can find this migrant pathway, government could easily do something, but they don't for a reason. It's not their agenda. Displacing European people and their nations is. Why? That is the most important question. Migrants have countries of their own they can always return to. What about us? Who is this film even for? Well, I think it was her big bipartisan exit from the public, addressing topics too hot to handle. As big tech clamps down and as the lamestream defamation machine churns on, calling her a white supremacist like so many of us, this was a good time to say goodbye, in search of a quiet, uncontroversial life, if that's even possible. There was also that Hope Not Hate scandal where she and her crew were speaking to and meeting with those horrid, ghastly globalists for God knows why. One of her crew even found himself in some drunk, naked, sexual encounter with them while working on Borderless.
Bit of a strange one here.
It's been a minute.
I know, sorry man, I know it's 4 o'clock in the morning here, but I've just got off the phone to Caelan for an hour, yeah? How much have they told you about Hope Not Hate?
Not much, why?
You're aware they've been meeting with them regularly?
I've met Joe too before. Yeah, I know that Caelan and George have met with them before.
Continually met with them? When you was doing your Borderless documentary, Hope Not Hate flew out to Italy to meet them?
I don't know what they were talking about.
Look, she's only 24. It's a lot of pressure fighting back against the leftist brainwashing machine. We've all seen how this works, even when you fight back just a little bit. It got to be too much, and so it was easier to take the middle exit and do damage control to start a normie life. Chalk it up as those younger year mistakes. No one expects women like Lauren to be a she-warrior fighting a monster system. Men should do that with some exceptional she co-pilots. But I just don't know how you go from knowing what she does to deciding to pursue an academic education, which means going to one of many cultural Marxist institutions. I don't know. Wanting a family is a noble path, but you don't need to get an academic education for that unless you plan on having a career too, which it sounds like she does. She said something about social media interfering in her life and not being able to have it all. I assume that means social media is too disruptive for her to be both an activist and a mother. I think it really comes down to personality. There are people who do know when and how to block the noise, step away, and have peace. You can live a productive, full life while commenting on our world gone mad. It's all about balance. But as a mother with young children, you can't be flying around the world, doing stunts on the street, and taking paid Skype calls from strangers. That part is true. I came at this later on in life. But for a young single woman, this is a difficult path. The strongest women I know in this scene are married and have the vital support system of a man. For me, though, I'd rather work for my husband and myself and my family than work for someone else and my family. Anyway, prediction. She'll marry an affluent guy and then return, possibly running for politics or as a news anchor or with a book. She's just distancing herself for something else in the future. You'll see. Thank you, Red Ice members, for supporting independent, truth-seeking media. Because of you, we're still here and will continue to do so. We weather the attacks, censorship, bands, and everything else that's coming because of your membership and donations. While corporate clown world media receives millions and loses millions, we are true grassroots, supported by the people, supported by you. And we are the future. See you later. Today, there was a massive purge on YouTube of truth-telling content creators. Several of our most popular videos have been removed without an explanation, and it's far from over. If our channel is deleted, you can always find us on redicemembers.com, of course, and redice.tv, but also Gab, Telegram, DLive, and BitChute. Links below. With all your support, we'll weather whatever comes our way.